The ratings are in for Friday's edition of AEW Rampage, drawing the second lowest total viewership in the history of the show. Seth Rollins declines to be on the OG Bloodline War Games team for Survivor Series, but is defeated by Big Bronson Reed in the main event of Raw thanks to interference from the new Tribal Chief Solo Sikoa. Could CM Punk, though, be the mystery partner for the OG Bloodline at Survivor Series? We'll let you know why some people think that's going to be the case. Rhea Ripley returns last night on Monday Night Raw and sets up a women's War Games match at Survivor Series. Bron Breakker retains the Intercontinental Championship via disqualification after Ludwig Kaiser attacks him. The Wyatt Sicks send a message to The Miz last night on Raw. We got the ratings for Friday's edition of SmackDown USA Network. The new theme song for Monday Night Raw on Netflix has been revealed. Swerve Strickland gives fans an update after being attacked by the Hurt Syndicate last week on AEW Dynamite. Details on the Street Profits contract situation with WWE. More details on the Costco Guys status with All Elite Wrestling ahead of a big match this weekend at AEW Full Gear. And praise has been heaped on Bobby Roode for stepping up in his role as a backstage producer. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with the ratings for Friday's edition of AEW Rampage. We know the show is likely to be going away very, very soon as the new media rights deal with Warner Bros. Discovery kicks into effect in 2025, and it's not good news for All Elite Wrestling when it comes to the numbers. The Friday, November 15th episode of AEW Rampage averaged 186,000 viewers on TNT, which is down over 21% from the previous week. It's the second lowest audience total in the history of the show, beating only the November 1st episode that averaged 172,000. Rampage drew an 0.06 rating in the 18-49 demo. That's down over 14% from last week and ties the second lowest rating in the show history, ahead of once again only the November 1st episode that did a 0.05. Now Rampage aired head-to-head with the co-main event of the Mike Tyson vs. Jake Paul Netflix broadcast, which featured Amanda Serrano vs. Katie Taylor. MVP Promotions and Netflix both claimed the matchup was the most watched fight in the history of women's boxing. The peak audience worldwide for the Tyson vs. Paul main event was said to be 60 million households. As compared to the same week in 2023, Rampage was down over 33% in overall viewers and also down over 33% in the 18 to 49 demographic. Now, last night on Raw, we saw more developments when it comes to the big War Games match at Survivor Series next weekend. The Usos and Sami Zayn approached former World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins backstage ahead of his match on Raw against his nemesis Big Bronson Reed, once again asking him to join the original Bloodline in their upcoming War Games match against Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline at Survivor Series. However, despite rejoining Sikoa's team this past Friday on SmackDown, and despite saying it pained him, Rollins once again refused, citing his absolute refusal to team with Roman Reigns. Jey Uso said they all have issues with Reigns and even with each other, but they're trying to put their differences aside just to make it work to take down the new Bloodline. Zayn said Rollins already put his difference with Cody Rhodes aside last year at War Games to stand beside Zayn and Jey. Zayn asked Rollins to do the same this year. Rollins said he would stand by any of them, but would never, under any circumstances, stand side by side with Reigns, who he called a tyrant. He said it hurt him for it to say for a lot of reasons, especially because he would love to get Reed, who aligned himself with Sikoa's Bloodline inside of a steel cage. He said he was going to handle Reed for all of them on Raw and walked away from the original Bloodline, leaving them still to find a fifth man for their team, which we'll get to in just a second. As far as the main event in question, Big Bronson Reed defeated Rollins and got some help from his new teammates. Big Bronson Reed and Seth freaking Rollins fought it out in a Crown Jewel rematch on Raw, and the fifth member of the new Bloodline's War Games team emerged victorious after interference from Solo Sikoa. Just after the bell rang for the main event, the new Bloodline, without Sikoa, jumped over the barricade and surrounded the ring. That brought out the Usos and Sami Zayn, who had asked Rollins to join their team, as mentioned earlier on in the evening, to come down the ramp and even the odds. The second half of the match picked up after Rollins attempted to hit a stomp on Reed on the steps on the outside, but both men got back in the ring. Rollins hit two springboard moonsaults to Reed, but he kicked out quickly of both. They battled back and forth with Rollins, hitting a frog splash, but Reed kicked out again. Rollins was able to connect with a stomp and went for the top rope to hit another one, but Sikoa appeared on the announce desk and distracted him. Reed hit a Death Valley driver, two 2 sentons, and a tsunami for the victory. Sikoa held up Reed's hand in victory after the match. So, because it looks like Rollins is not, as of right now, going to be on the OG Bloodlines team, many are wondering who could be the 5th person on their team next weekend in War Games. Some are speculating it could be the return of CM Punk. Now, CM Punk hasn't been seen in WWE since the Raw after his victory over Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, but some are predicting CM Punk will play a part at Survivor Series War Games, the premium live event, of course, where he returned to WWE last year. Both Fightful Select's Corey Brennan and PW Insider's Mike Johnson believe that Punk will join the original Bloodlines War Games team instead of the heavily implied Seth Rollins after particularly what happened last night on Raw. On X, Brennan noted that Punk taking the spot would make infinitely more sense than Rollins joining the original Bloodlines team. Meanwhile, on a PW Insider Elite podcast, Johnson explained why he thinks Punk is the 5th man for the babyfaces, saying Paul Heyman, who Roman Reigns failed to reach by phone Friday night, is the key. He said, quote, "I'm telling you, the 5th man is going to be CM Punk," Johnson said. There is a reason why Paul Heyman is such an important linchpin of this story right now, right down to that excellent end on SmackDown this past Friday where Paul Heyman's number was disconnected. I think Roman was going to Paul, "Wise man, I need your counsel. Wise man, I need your help. Wise man, I need your advice." And the original Paul Heyman guy, can't count Brock right now, obviously, is CM Punk. Punk will be teaming with the OG Bloodline. Now, Punk and Heyman's last interaction came on the June 21st edition of SmackDown when Heyman warned CM Punk of an impending new Bloodline attack and asked Punk to leave and take me with you. Heyman himself hasn't been seen since being put through the announce table by the new Bloodline a week later. Now, we saw Rhea Ripley make her return to Monday Night Raw last night after recently suffering an injury. A Women's War Games match for Survivor Series is now set with a returning Rhea Ripley, complete with a protective face mask, evening the odds between the teams on Monday Night Raw this past Monday. The episode kicked off with Women's World Champion Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, who addressed the fact that they knew the Women's Tag Team Champions, who they've been feuding with, were backstage, and Morgan knew they didn't come alone. Morgan said she and Rodriguez weren't alone either. WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax's music hit, and she, alongside Miss Money in the Bank Tiffany Stratton and Candice LeRae, came down to the ring. Jax began to address the babyfaces, but was interrupted by Bianca Belair's music. Belair came out alongside tag partner Jade Cargill and Naomi. Belair said they certainly didn't come alone, and out come Io Sky. The babyfaces got in the ring and faced down Morgan and her team. Morgan said they were still outnumbered, and she didn't think there was anyone dumb enough in the back who would want to be on their team. She asked who she wanted to throw the first punch. That led to Rhea Ripley's music hitting, and she came out wearing a mask to cover her broken orbital bone, which in storyline was caused by an attack with a baseball by Morgan and Rodriguez on NXT. She screamed "War Games" in Morgan's face, then hit her with a headbutt, starting the brawl between the teams. The babyfaces stood tall in the middle of the ring to end the segment, and the match has now been confirmed. Now, Sheamus is going to have to wait a little bit longer to finally capture the Intercontinental Championship in WWE because Bron Breakker retained his Intercontinental title against Sheamus during Raw after being ambushed by Ludwig Kaiser. The Celtic Warrior was once more challenging for the one title he needs to become a WWE Grand Slam champion on Monday night, and almost looked to have succeeded in that quest after landing a knee strike on the champion, but only for a near fall. He then sought to finish things with a bro kick, only to be interrupted by a spear from Breakker, but had enough awareness to roll out of the ring and not get pinned. Breakker then broke into a sprint from one side of the ringside, looking to land a super spear to Sheamus on the other, but was met by an interfering Ludwig Kaiser with a lariat. As the bell rung for disqualification, Kaiser turned his attention to Sheamus, landing a running dropkick to send him into the steel steps. Kaiser was earlier encouraged to stand on his own 2 feet by Gunther, and now he's pushed himself into the Intercontinental Championship picture. Kaiser and Sheamus have fought often throughout this year, stemming from the latter's career goal, pitting him against Gunther during his reign. They fought over an opportunity at the title in September, both ultimately losing as Braun Strowman secured the victory. And 2 weeks ago, Sheamus earned momentum in a singles victory over Kaiser before laying down the challenge for Breakker last week. Now, the Wyatt Sicks had a message last night for The Miz on Raw, and it looks like Bo Dallas is evolving and morphing into his late brother Wyndham Rotunda, better known as Bray Wyatt. On Monday Night Raw, Bo Dallas addressed The Miz's deception last week, which led to the Final Testament battering the Wyatt Sicks in a massive brawl. Earlier in the show, The Miz had talked up his portrayal of a changed man, succouring Dallas and the Wyatts and suggesting the rebirth of his acting career was at hand, while Karrion Kross promised that things were far from over between the factions. Dallas talked treachery butchery during his own vignette, which included clips of his late brother Bray Wyatt as well as The Miz, captured and chained up with the word liar drawn on his torso. Dallas said he had tried to give The Miz a way out of the pit before eerily apologizing for what was coming. Quote, "I tried to warn you, you've damned yourself," Dallas intoned. "I'm sorry for what happens next. You chose this. Your hands will be forever blood-stained crimson scarlet red because of your actions, and you will lose what matters most." Dallas ended the promo by saying, "I never wanted this." Now, in recent weeks, the Wyatts have become enamored with The Miz, Cross, and the Final Testament by proxy, and it was made clear after the group had abducted him this was an act of absolution from The Miz's failed promises made to Dallas with The Miz Taraj in his initial run with the promotion. However, Miz appeared free from capture during last week's Raw with the reasoning that he had promised to change his ways. Cross then dragged The Miz out to the ring, luring the Wyatts in for an eventual ambush, with The Miz striking Roman with a steel chair to kick things off. Now, just as we had the ratings for Rampage earlier on, we've got the ratings for Friday's edition of SmackDown on USA Network. And whether it be Fox or USA, SmackDown has dealt with plenty of competition on Friday nights from the likes of Major League Baseball, college football, the NBA, and so on. In most instances, all of those situations would have seen as big a competition than a boxing fight, but that was not the case, of course, this past weekend, where SmackDown not only went against a boxing card, but one featuring WWE Hall of Famer Mike Tyson taking on the brother of former United States champion Logan Paul. And ultimately, that card, streaming on Netflix, proved to be among the toughest competition WWE has faced in years. WrestleNomics report that SmackDown, going against the card, drew 1.234 million total viewers and a 0.32 in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. Both numbers were down heavily from last week, with total viewership falling 20% from 1.536 million, while the 18 to 49 was down 32% from a 0.47. Similar drops occurred against the full-week average, with total viewership falling 14% from 1.440, while the 18-49 was down 27% from a 0.44. The 1849 numbers represent the lowest SmackDown has drawn in the key demographic since the show moved from Fox to USA Network earlier this fall. While the Paul Tyson card was definitely a key factor in numbers falling, SmackDown never aired directly against their fight or against the semi-main event between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Netflix, as I mentioned earlier on, later announced the card was watched by more than 60 million households, with Taylor versus Serrano being seen by 50 million. Whether SmackDown recovers next week remains to be seen, though they will have a strong hook coming off that show closing scene, which involved Roman Reigns attempting to get in contact with Paul Heyman. Now, speaking of Netflix, of course, Raw moves there next year, and we got more details on what the production is going to look like because the new theme song for Raw on Netflix has been revealed. WWE Monday Night Raw is officially set to move to Netflix on January 6th, with a number of major names announced for the show, including Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Bianca Belair. Also announced for an appearance on the show is rapper Travis Scott, with Paul Triple H Levesque announcing Scott's appearance, as well as the location being announced as the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles. On top of Travis Scott's appearance on the show, it was also announced that a new song released by Scott will serve as the theme song for Raw when it moves to Netflix. This is what WWE had to say, quote, "Netflix and WWE announced that the brand new Intuit Dome in Los Angeles will be the home of Monday Night Raw's debut on Netflix live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on January 6, 2025. The announcement was made by WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Triple H Levesque and Travis Scott on stage from a sold-out concert at the Complex Con in Las Vegas. Scott, who will be at the January 6 Netflix debut, also revealed his new music will serve as the theme song for Raw. The premiere episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix will feature some of the biggest names in WWE, such as John Cena, undisputed WWE Champion, the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Bianca Belair, in addition to many other superstars and surprise guests. This partnership marks a new era for WWE fans, with much anticipated debut of live weekly programming with can't-miss action unfolding 52 weeks a year on Netflix. In addition to Monday Night Raw, Netflix will bring WWE's electrifying content to audiences outside of the United States, including SmackDown, NXT, and premium live events such as WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam. These events can be seen on Netflix starting January 6, 2025 in most international markets around the world. Many of WWE's top Raw moments will be available to watch on Netflix, plus select programming and historic PLEs also available outside of the United States from January 1st, 2025. Now, Swerve Strickland has provided a bit of an update on his health after an attack from the Hurt Syndicate last week. Last week, after defeating Lio Rush on AEW Dynamite, Swerve Strickland found himself on the receiving end of a beatdown from the Hurt Syndicate. Following the on-screen ambush, Strickland took to X to post an update on his health, though his official status is unclear. Strickland shared an X-ray image of his shoulder, which does not appear to have severe damage. Along with the picture, Strickland penned a caption warning of the dangers of the Hurt Syndicate's attack, but the former AEW World Champion did not comment on the extent of his injury or offer any other details. Additionally, there is not yet any outside confirmation that Strickland has a serious injury or will miss any time. Now, assuming he's able to wrestle, Strickland is set to face recent AEW signee Bobby Lashley this Saturday at AEW Full Gear. Strickland and Lashley's Hurt Syndicate have been feuding for over a month now, beginning with the debut of Shelton Benjamin and MVP at Wrestle Dream. If Strickland is out of action, it would force the company to push the feud down the road and come up with something different for Lashley to do in the meantime. Now, the Street Profits, bit of an update on the Street Profits. Some people wondering what their current contract situation is with WWE. The situation surrounding multi-time WWE Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, has become a hot topic of discussion recently after both Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford separately hinted at frustration with their current positions. That was then followed up by a report on the duo's WWE contract status, one that seemed to offer more questions than answers regarding how much time Ford and Dawkins had on their WWE deals and if they could potentially be departing. At least for right now, it appears no change will be coming for either Ford or Dawkins. PW Insider is reporting that the Street Profits are currently locked into WWE contracts, and those within WWE do not believe either Ford or Dawkins will be exiting the promotion anytime soon. As such, it's believed that Ford and Dawkins' remarks were done more to grab people's attention than anything related to the duo leaving or anything like that. Now, this weekend, of course, we're going to see Costco Guys at AEW Full Gear, but we're actually going to see them Wednesday on Dynamite as well, and that was not originally part of the plans. Big Boom AJ of the Costco Guys is making his in-ring return after years of being away from wrestling, and he'll have Big Justice by his side at AEW Full Gear this weekend. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, AJ went on a media tour promoting his match at AEW Full Gear 0 Hour, which AEW were very happy about, in addition to the attention the angle has gained. However, the angle was never actually supposed to be featured on television, and the buzz around the angle helped facilitate that. Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that QT Marshall himself, along with Sonjay Dutt, pushed for the match to happen. Fightful have been told when they angled for the match, the pitch was for the program not to take up any time on AEW Dynamite or Collision. One of the reasons Fightful were told that was the case, so that talent on the show wasn't discouraged that the angle took up any TV time. In the past week, AEW decided to incorporate Big Boom AJ into a Dynamite segment to further push the match, as it's gained good press over the last month or so. When Marshall returned to AEW after a brief departure, it was only as a backstage name. However, he has wrestled a couple of dark matches along the way. Those that Fightful have spoken to around AEW said that AJ and his family have been very respectful of the process, with one wrestler noting that it's clear AJ had been around wrestling in the past. Of course, AJ actually was a professional wrestler, not a big time one, of course, and retired or stopped wrestling in the mid-2000s. And finally, Bobby Roode is getting praise from those in WWE for stepping up backstage in his producer role. Now, it was recently announced that two major WWE backstage names, Bruce Pritchard and Michael Hayes, were both on leave from the company for personal reasons. Hayes' absence comes amid him being the main producer for the Bloodline storyline in recent years, with Jamie Noble and Bobby Roode serving as the producers in his recent absence. In an update from PW Insider, Roode was present at the WWE HQ last week, with him said to have been getting tons of praise in his role since stepping up and working on a number of top WWE main events, filling the role of Hayes amid his absence. Hayes has taken time off to deal with a personal situation, which PW Insider has noted is said to be a medical one in nature, with him expected to return to the company soon. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.